back, fight fans. Welcome back to the Knockdown with Jacob Dietrich. We were hoping to get this episode a little bit earlier than today, but trying to figure out everything moving forward with Winners Only Club. These episodes will typically now be Sunday night into Monday, as well as dropping Monday morning on Spotify, Apple, wherever you guys do listen to your podcasts. And then we will have an episode tonight. We'll also be doing a fight companion for the Dana White Contender series. If you guys are watching here on Twitch and Kick tonight, as well as a new episode again tomorrow. So you guys will be able to see all of that. But let's get right into it. Let's real quick thank our friends over at Bucked Up. If you don't know about it by now, what are you doing? Bucked Up is a sports nutrition and fitness supplement brand best known for its high stimulant pre-workout powders, energy drinks, and fitness apparel. Founded in 2013, the brand is designed for weightlifters, bodybuilders, and athletes looking for an energy and focus boost. For a discount on your next order, use code WINNERS. That's spelled W1NN3RS for discounts to be a better and healthier you. Again, that is W1NN3RS. Use code WINNERS. Alright, so let's start off with some fight announcements that we got before we jump into the UFC 330 recap. Starting with Anthony Wint. He was on Dana White Contender Series last week, so if you guys did watch the Contender Series, he's getting a fast track. Feels kind of like Josh Hokett. He's going to be fighting this weekend on the UFC Fight Night card. It kind of reminds me of like a Khamzat feeling. But Anthony Wint, last I saw, he was the first fight of the early prelims. I wouldn't be surprised if that changes just because people already do know him because he did, again, fight last Tuesday. And then, just like Wint, not for this weekend, but Bilal Hassan is going to fight in Shanghai versus Nilson Rojas. Quick turnaround for him as well, as that's in the next 2 months. So, reminder, really, because you see it that quickly. The fighters that are fighting today may fight in the next 2 weeks. It doesn't happen super often, but guys like Bilal Hassan and Anthony Wint are fighting immediately. They were the two that got finishes within the first minute. We're not going to guarantee that, obviously, every single week. But Anthony Wint, Bilal Hassan, both getting quick turnarounds. Good for the UFC. That's how you make a star, to be honest. Now, Marc-Andre Barrial versus Kyle Daukaus was announced for UFC Edmonton. We do add another Canadian in Barrial to the card. And then for Daukaus, it's just as the revenge tour continuing. He was out of the UFC for a little bit, came back. He's looked like a new man. He's looked much better. He does have his brother Chris as well. Chris was not as fortunate as Kyle. It does seem like the better fighter out of the two. But Kyle Daukaus going to continue UFC Edmonton coming up here soon in Canada. We also, during the UFC 330 broadcast, heard Sean Brady versus Gabriel Bonfim in November. I believe this is at the Apex. Honestly, the significance of this fight is it's a main event, yes, but it's going to set up to be a number one contender fight in the welterweight division. I'm not saying this is the number one contender. It's going to set up a fight where the winner of this fight is going to see a number one contender fight. So very possible that one of these two guys could be in a title fight within the next year. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Raoni Barcelos in September. This is also an Apex fight. Rosas Jr., only being 21 years old, he will be turning 22, I believe, 2 weeks after this fight does happen. Main event, it's rare that you see someone this young and this talented in the UFC. So, I mean, as you guys already know, he's another Dana White Contender Series alum. He's fighting in a main event and only 21 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. He's been around for 3 years already. He got signed as an 18-year-old. I believe he was still taking high school classes. But Raul Rosas Jr., 21 years old, going to get a main event at the Apex. Now let's get into UFC 330. If you guys didn't watch UFC 330, it was a great card. I know a lot of people kind of are hating on it. There's people on the internet, especially on Twitter, that have been bothering me about this for a little bit. But I would like to say UFC 330, we are going to do some winners and losers. We'll cover the main event and co-main event. But let's start off with the winners. Let's start it with the positives. Jalen Turner beats, I believe it's Kai Fernandez. But this is not about Fernandez. This is about Jalen Turner. Very much an untested fight for Jalen Turner. He took some time away from the UFC. It looked like we were never going to see him, to be honest, again. He's a very nice dude. It seems like the mental health was getting to him. He does end up coming back. Gets a quick knockout. I believe it was within a minute. I didn't get the timing on here quite there. But it was a different level for Jalen Turner. I mean, I think the break may actually have been beneficial for Jalen. I think that you're going to see him probably get another quick turnaround probably by the end of the year. And I guess that's not super quick because we do still have 4 months left of this year. But it wouldn't shock me if you saw him on like the December or in Madison Square Garden fighting again. But Jalen Turner, big winner from this weekend. He got his name back out there and he looked like an animal. Lucas Fernando versus Rafael Tobias. Fernando was levels above Tobias, especially in the striking department. The light heavyweight division is crowded, but also weirdly open. The reason I say that is because there's a lot of aging talent in the light heavyweight division that's kind of crowding at the top of the division. Someone like Fernando could easily make waves just by putting on performances like he did. He got a round 3 finish here. His striking was, like I said, elite. And at the light heavyweight division, I mean, there's not too much grappling that's being done. It wouldn't shock me if you saw him in a top 15, maybe 12, I would say somewhere in the range of 8 to 15 fight next in terms of ring contenders for a Fernando. He looked that good. I was impressed. I thought that he did everything he needed to do to set himself up. He took his time. He was patient in the pocket. He threw punches when needed, and it was beautiful combinations after combination after combination. He got the round 3 finish, so I mean, he's also getting the finish to his record. I think that does go a long way, especially in the UFC, in a division that, quite frankly, I mean, we could see more action out of. I know Carlos Ulberg's at the top. He's injured. We're talking about possibly Apollo Costa versus Magomed Ankalaev interim fight, which, I mean, Paulo Costa has one fight in the light heavyweight division, so it's very possible that someone like Fernando could make their way up in the light heavyweight division rather quickly. So, I mean, he's a name to kind of watch out for, and if you guys did watch the event from this weekend, he looked very good doing so. Now, Neil Magny versus Ramiz Brahimaj, a Chicago guy, so, I mean, it does suck to see that. Brahimaj, you can't be that much younger than Neil Magny, who I thought was going to be retiring after this fight. His gas tank looked awful. 39 years old again for Magny. He just, I mean, after the first couple minutes of round 1, Brahimaj had no gas left in that tank, and that's a real issue, especially at welterweight when some of these guys have beautiful cardio. I mean, just look at the main event, which we'll talk about in a little bit, between Gary and Makhachev. I mean, for Brahimaj, you need to look better. It was not a performance worth telling anyone about. I honestly had higher hopes for him. I didn't throw him in any of our parlays, but it would have been nice for him to get the win because it would have moved him up in this welterweight division, and it would have given us some fresh blood. Now, also in the welterweight division, kind of same storyline, Jeremiah Wells defeats Oralbai, who was 11 years younger than Wells. Wells, a Philadelphia native. It seemed like Oralbai just had low fight IQ, and I was saying it kind of the entire fight. He looked overmatched. He was putting himself into awful situations, and eventually when you put yourself into so many awful positions, you're going to get subbed. And that's exactly what happened. He ends up kind of going forward when he shouldn't have been. I don't know if he was stunned. He was just kind of moving forward, ends up getting choked out. He moves 16-3-1, so I mean a good record for a professional, but like that's not a win that you can really take a loss that you can really take that early on in the early prelims. I mean, I would be shocked if they put him on another pay-per-view numbered event for that reason. He just looks totally unprepared. It looked like the moment was too big for him. So for Oralbai, big loser of this event. Shout out to Jeremiah Wells. You could say he was a big winner. He gets to win in his hometown of Philadelphia. I believe he said he was mulling retirement. Wouldn't shock me if that was the end, just because you get it done at home. He was the only Philadelphia native on the card, which is a little bit shocking. But Jeremiah Wells, I will actually put him in the winner category. And then Oralbai, I would say was the biggest loser, and he was the first loser of the night. So let's jump into the Dern versus Robertson fight. Before we do so, I mean, after this decision, you did have Dean Thomas retire, which was a very weird moment. I think that's kind of been the biggest story that almost came out of this, was how he said that this is as far as he thinks Jillian can go, which is kind of crazy because I believe she's only 31 years old. There's no reason to believe that she couldn't make another run, especially in this division that I feel like if you're just active enough, you're probably going to get a title fight as long as you win some fights. Um, but like I said, this fight did go to decision. And so with that, let's real quick just tell you about one of our sponsors. And if you love MMA but hate the judging, then check out CrowdCard. It's an app that crowdsources judging in combat sports. CrowdCard lets you judge every round of every fight on your own scorecard and see scores aggregated across all other users. It's free to use and super simple. Just download the app or head over to crowdcard.xyz, create your account, and tune in to score fights during the next UFC event. So yeah, shout out CrowdCard. We were using it all night during the fight companion that we had. We will be doing another one again, like I said, for tonight for the Dana White Contender series, as well as on Saturday. But this was Dern's first title defense. And I mean, let's be real. I think everyone's kind of saying the same thing. She gets the title over Vanderova, and then beats Jillian Robertson. There's the big name that's going to be missing. And we know she's coming soon. It's got to be probably the next fight for Mackenzie Dern. Zhang Weili is looming. She is here. She is ready to fight. We're just waiting for it to actually happen now. And it's got to be the next fight if you're looking at Mackenzie Dern and thinking, what's next? I don't think there's many people questioning it. Mackenzie Dern, I would say, kind of left that fight pretty healthy. And I know we've seen Zhang Weili before at Madison Square Garden. She would be a good candidate, probably for a card that usually I feel like likes to get 2 to 3 title fights in, because it is the biggest spot in the world when it comes to fights ever. So Madison Square Garden would be a very, very real possibility for Mackenzie Dern versus Weili. But Dern was just much better everywhere. She showed much improved striking all around. She did slow down in round 5, but I mean, it was just excellent defense all the way through. She was never really in danger. She was just fighting off her back. But when you're as skilled as her in BJJ, it wasn't really like she was hurting herself by doing so. She was kept out of danger pretty much the entire fight. From the start, she was already putting Jillian on her back foot. And I would just say, like, Mackenzie Dern looked amazing all the way around. And her skills are continuing to improve. I believe she's at 33 years old, which in this division, if you beat a Zhang Weili, I don't know who would be able to beat her, if I'm being honest. And even if the fight is close when Zhang Weili does eventually fight her, because we can just get right into that, it looks like that's the fight to just keep making. I mean, obviously there's some talent at the top. I mean, you're still going to have like Tatiana Suarez, who could be in the mix again for another title fight. But we need fresher blood in the division. But Mackenzie Dern, all credit to you. You looked amazing. You did what you needed to do on Saturday. And, I mean, if you're in the Mackenzie Dern camp, you got to be thinking, like, we're on top of the world. She's quietly put together a Hall of Fame career. And Mackenzie Dern, I mean, I could have put her as one of the big winners from this card, but I didn't want to go right into the main and co-main event that quickly. So, congratulations, Mackenzie Dern. Big winner of this fight. And I would assume we're going to see you probably before the end of the year, if not maybe in January. Let's get into the main event. And I mean, we could talk about this for a while. It's Islam Makhachev defeats Ian Garry again by decision. Ian Garry, though, I mean, it's hard to say anything other than he becomes less and less likable, but his fight skills make him tolerable. And I don't know how to explain that other than that. Like, Ian Garry, from his press conference to him kind of grabbing the mic away from Bruce as he's getting announced to get out there, it's just like you want to try to like him. He's really leaning into the whole Conor McGregor Irish thing. It doesn't really work for him, if we're being honest. Like, he's got too much baggage almost, which is crazy when you're talking about Conor. He did look amazing, though, in the fight. I mean, if there was anyone that was going to beat Islam on that night, it was Ian Garry. Now, the one thing I will say for Islam is the size was an actual issue for Islam. You could see it when he was trying to get into these wrestling and grappling exchanges. He struggled to get Ian Garry to the ground, and if he did get him to the ground, he wasn't keeping him there for long enough periods of time. And so that's going to be something that we have to watch for Islam. However, if there's anyone that's going to be able to figure out, it is Islam. He makes his first defense at welterweight. He also breaks the all-time record for consecutive UFC victories at 17 fights in a row. He does not make a nice call out of Carlos Prates, which, I mean, we can kind of talk about in a second here. Obviously, Morales would have been very interesting, slash, I mean, he could be deserving. There's also Shavkat that's kind of in the mix. I know he's been dealing with a lot of personal issues, but Carlos Prates, it seems like, is probably going to get the next title fight, especially when it's Islam Makhachev. I know Dana in the UFC doesn't enjoy people kind of calling out who they want as their next opponent, but if anyone can do it, it would be Islam. Like I said, Gary was very close to an upset, and it wouldn't shock me if he's now going to have to fight Morales. They had a weird exchange backstage, and this is where you kind of get, like, likable Ian Gary, was when he's not on camera. He kind of was telling Morales, like, hey, like, you don't need to make up all this shit. You're a good fighter. Just keep fighting, and that's how your name is really going to rise in this division, which I kind of agree with. Now, I do think you can't be as boring as watching paint dry when it comes to a personality, because the UFC still needs to kind of sell people to watch the fights. But if you're Ian Gary, I think you're 100% correct on the Morales take, which realistically, unless Shavkat's back, Gary versus Morales just sets up a round 2 or a Morales title fight. It's a number 1 contender fight, I believe, immediately. It seems like Ian Gary's pretty much unscathed. I know he took a high kick that knocked him down, but that was in round 2 and he recovered pretty quickly. I wouldn't be shocked if we see him early next year. Now, for Morales, is he going to wait around that long? I don't think so. But, yeah, Ian Gary he's right there. He very well is probably going to get another shot in this division. It's just when, and if so, like, can he make enough adjustments? Which, Islam is only getting older. That's always going to be something that we're going to have to now talk about. He's kind of always been beaten up, so the scar tissue is pretty loose there. I think that there's a real chance that he could end up taking a bunch of beatings. I know he does have the loss on his record by knockout. Now, that was obviously 18 fights ago, or 17 wins before. So, for Makhachev, you do have to be careful. You probably have to be kind of picky and choosy about who you fight next. Now, the UFC doesn't normally allow you to do that. He says he wants to get to 20, so that kind of sets me up to think, like, he's probably only got 3 more fights left in him before this becomes the Umar and Usman or Magomedov camp. Because right now it is Islam's camp. Umar is very good. Usman probably is going to fight for a title in the UFC as soon as he is actually announced as signing. That was my big prediction going into this, is Usman was going to get announced before the fight. It didn't end up happening. Now, they did show him during the broadcast, and that's when I kind of realized, like, it's not happening tonight. They would have done it right then and there. He was front row. It makes so much sense for Usman Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje, but we can get into that at a different time. Right now, it's about Islam Makhachev, and you have to congratulate him, as he is now the holder of the most consecutive wins. It's no longer Anderson Silva's record. It is Islam Makhachev's record that people are going to be going after, and it's an active record that could, if he makes the right adjustments and he can figure out the size of other welterweights, he very well could be at the 20 wins by the time it's all said and done. Because if anyone can do it, it would be him or John Jones. But John Jones, well, we can always talk about that at a different time. Everyone knows the story of John Jones in terms of how he got his 1 loss. Now, if you guys were watching the stream, you guys saw best bets. We did go up 3.5 units. And so we had Mackenzie Dern by decision. We also had a parlay of Makhachev, Tresean Gore, who we could have also mentioned as a big winner from this, and Jalen Turner. The Dern by decision was plus 150. The Makhachev Gore Turner parlay was plus 300. The only one that we did lose on was Mansour Abdul Malik. I had him winning inside distance. If we would have just taken inside distance in general, we would have got the win there. But Mansour Abdul Malik was our only blemish on our best bets, which when you go 2-1 and you have 2 bets that are plus money that both win, it's going to be a good night no matter what, so can't be too hard on them. But yeah, that was the UFC 330. We will be doing another fight companion again tonight. We'll be doing a fight companion for the PFL on Friday. We'll be doing a fight companion for the UFC on Saturday. So you guys can check us out on Twitch, Kick. We're trying to figure out what went wrong with TikTok. It kicked us off after about 6-7 minutes. But that was our UFC 330 coverage. Now let's get into our listed segment. And before we get into the listed segment, I just want to let you know, listed is not like other apps. It's an app where you can truly express your opinions and rank. At listed, you can create lists with creative aspects, mystery rank artists, movies, TV shows. You can also rank your opinions and share it with others instead of arguing in the comments. There is also Eliminate One, budget boards, and daily polls with tournaments. Join now and be part of the listed family. Now, I'm going to show you guys, if you guys are watching the stream, what listed kind of does look like. And so if you guys are looking at the screen, you guys do see it up right now. I'm just going to get rid of that. And so today we are going to cover, because we did just finish the fights in Philadelphia, best U.S. Northeast venues for fighting. And so we're going to start with number 5. I did switch it up a little bit after this because originally I had this at 4, but it's the Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia. Now, I love Philadelphia. I think it's a great city in the United States. There's nothing like Philadelphia, especially when it's hooting and hollering. The only issue I have with Philadelphia is, and I would say most people do probably think this as well, is the fans. And I'm not even saying that like as like a I hate Philadelphia sports fans, because I really don't. I think they're one of the most passionate groups in the world, in any sport. Obviously, you have all the soccer teams out in Europe that are just as crazy. But my issue with Philadelphia, for fights in particular, is anytime there was a grappling exchange, it was just boos. Now, I did think it was really funny when they booed Herb Dean this past weekend, but when you're looking at a UFC fight and you're booing any time there's grappling, like, you're not there to watch the MMA. You're there to watch boxing, which I get it. Boxing is very entertaining, and boxing is one of the greatest sports that we've ever had. But if that's your intent, like maybe fighting in terms of MMA is just not for you. And so that's the reason I do have Xfinity Mobile Arena coming in at 5. Now, an arena that maybe most people probably have never been to, especially if you're just a UFC fan, is the Mohegan Sun over in Uncasville, Connecticut. And so, if you guys don't know, Mohegan Sun is a giant casino. It does have a very great arena. I believe it is currently the home of UConn women's basketball, as well as the Connecticut Sun, I think is the WNBA team. I think I heard they're relocating, though, to like Houston or something. But currently, they do host a WNBA team there. But on top of that, it is a casino in Connecticut. And I'll be honest, I probably would have had it higher than number 3. My only issue is, shout out Dylan Rush, shout out Pat Dana, shout out Dylan Napoleon. I mean, when we were there, we didn't know that there's a hard cutoff on drinks in Connecticut, like after like 11 o'clock. So when you get out of here, there's nowhere to go have a drink, which is kind of a terrible thing. I mean, especially when you're in the media and you're not allowed to drink during the event, you kind of want to unwind. And if we didn't know that, so we didn't have drinks already in the hotel ready for us to go. But Xfinity Mobile Arena, Mohegan Sun at number 4, great a place. Again, just there's outside factors that kind of hurt Connecticut. Now at number 3, I do have the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. If you guys have ever been to Boston, it's one of the greatest places in the United States. I highly recommend it, but I also highly recommend going to the TD Garden for whether it's a concert or a Bruins game or a Celtics game, or if you are lucky enough to go to a UFC fight. I believe the last fight that we had there was the Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling fight. When I was in attendance, I thought that was incredible. I thought the Garden is just one of the best places that there is. And so for the Garden, I do have it over at number 3. Now, number 2 is an event that we're never going to see again, so which is why it kind of gets a special treatment. It's the White House. Now, I personally was not in attendance, but the White House is one of the coolest backdrops that we're ever going to see, along with like the Sphere in Vegas. It's one and done. It sounds like Dana is working on another one and done event, and it's going to be interesting to see what that is. But the White House does get my number 2. Just everything around it, because it's outdoors, it's a little bit different, because really no tickets were sold for the event. It makes the entire thing just so much more different. You had the live band. It's just something we'll never see again, and I can't stress that enough. So the White House is a cool number 2, and you can't make it a number 1 list without putting Madison Square Garden, which the UFC has made a mainstay for November events. I can't wait to be out there for Madison Square Garden in November. It sounds like the 14th. I've been talking a lot about it. I kind of think that it's going to be like Mackenzie Dern fight, could be a Justin Gaethje fight. But Madison Square Garden, if you guys have never attended Madison Square Garden or even been to New York City, as an American, I think everyone does have to go there. I would almost say you have to more so go to New York City than you do Washington, D.C. as an American, just because New York City, as much as it pains me to say as a Chicagoan, is where dreams are made. And it's a great city. Obviously, it could be better at times, but Madison Square Garden, when you're in there, you realize all the history, you see it all on the walls. Madison Square Garden is unlike anything ever, and so I do have to put that at my number 1 spots. And so that was our listed segment of best fight locations across the Northeast. Would love to hear what you guys think in the comments if you guys are watching on YouTube, Rumble, or X, or if there's comment section. I know there is on Spotify. I don't know if there is one on Apple Podcasts. Would love to hear what you guys think of that list. Now, before we get into Dana White Contender Series, I do want to say I don't know how updated these odds are. When I was pulling these, originally the show was going to get recorded on Sunday night, so I don't actually even have odds for the last one, but I know you guys can get this now. Dana White Contender Series at best bets. Muhammad Ali, which not the Muhammad Ali that fight fans know and love, it's the second time on the show. If you guys have heard the name in the MMA realm, I would hope that you guys have heard the boxer. But he's 32 years old, and the UFC must see something in a 32-year-old light heavyweight to be bringing him in on this a second time. He's fighting against Ali Lorenz. He's minus 350 favorite. I like Muhammad Ali probably to get the win here, because if you lose your first fight in the Dana White Contender Series, usually they're not reaching out to get you on a second time in less than a calendar year. So I would like Muhammad Ali as a minus 350 favorite to get on this slip, as well as Namo Fazil. I hope I said that right. A welterweight. He's minus 170 versus Cake Brito. Again, hopefully I said that one right. But Brito has plenty of experience at 19-6. If you guys are thinking, I feel like I've heard Fazil's name. He did fight on the MVP card of Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. His nickname is Grandson of Saladin, which I think is why a lot of people kind of were like, who is this guy? That's such a weird nickname. But Grandson of Saladin, Namo Fazil. He got a round 2 submission victory in that MVP card. He's only 29 years old. He's 10-1 with 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. So you don't know how he's going to get it done. He does finish quite a few fights. Obviously, 8 of his 10 wins are by finish. I like him at minus 170 as the second leg of this parlay. And then to kind of close it off, and this is where I don't have the odds, so this will be on the stream tonight, is Christian Perez versus Logan Paxton. This is the second time for Perez on Dana White Contender Series. He is the favorite at minus 260, but that's not the bet we're running with. 75% of Perez's fights inside distance, with 6 of the last 7. 9 out of the 11 fights end inside distance for Paxton. So, as I said, odds were unavailable, but we're going to fight to not go the distance, or for that last leg of this parlay. And this show is built for finishes, so when you get 2 guys that are very familiar with finishes in their fights, with one being at 75%, and I believe 9 out of 11 comes in right at about 86%, something like that. There's no reason that I think that this fight would go the distance. So I think Christian Perez versus Logan Paxton, fight to not go the distance. We're going to go Fazil minus 170 and Ali at minus 350. Again, those odds could have changed. If you guys want updated, I'll be posting this exact clip over to X with the updated odds. So that's the Dana White Contender Series best bets. Again, if you guys are watching this, we are going to be going back live in just a few hours to talk about Dana White Contender Series as a fight companion. It will be the 5 fights, as well as when Dana is reading off the decisions. But come back here for Dana White Contender Series. Also, if you guys like Winners Only Club and you guys want to figure out how to get involved, we are posting a link to join us in making us a better company, essentially. And so you guys are more than welcome to fill this out. We will be doing interviews, hopefully for production, content, finance, sales, as well as there was one more position that we opened up. I can't remember what it was. But we hope that you guys would like to join with us. And so if you guys do, check out the link that's in the bio. And best of luck to you, to be honest. And then schedule going forward, again, we're going to have Dana White Contender Series Fight Companion tonight. We will be recording a podcast either tonight or tomorrow morning for the Dana White Contender Series recap. We will be doing a PFL and UFC preview. Actually, I might put the PFL preview into the Dana White Contender Series episode and then go full on UFC because that makes more sense. That'll be on Thursday. And then on Friday, we will have the PFL Fight Companion. Saturday, we'll be doing the UFC Fight Companion. Sunday will be PFL and UFC recap episode. And then we will be doing another one of these episodes for next week's Dana White Contender Series. So, a lot of episodes coming up in the next week. So, check us out on Winners Only Club, on Kick, WOC Main, on X, Instagram, and Twitch. Also, I believe it's Winners Only Club on TikTok. So if you guys do want to help support us and you guys want to come listen to a show, you guys are also available on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, etc. So we thank you guys for listening. We thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys again tonight. And as always, let's just keep winning bets. Peace.